Thanks for rocking with us today. This episode turned out very different, but it was awesome to have. We talk about walking in our wives' shoes, and something that we discussed is to actively walk in her shoes. We as husbands have to lean in not only into how she sees the world, but also how she feels and experiences the world.
And Paul came up off the fly with a banger 5-step process to being able to better sit with your wife where she is when she is feeling something and working on being able to do the same for yourself. But you're going to have to listen to the rest of the episode for that. So continue listening.
I was thinking about this topic, just reflecting on certain things in life, like whenever there's a change in schedule, or because it's summertime, right? So our schedule kind of shifts, and we've been a little bit sick at the house, so that also kind of shifts things. But whenever we have like a life change or schedule change, it makes me reflect, because it's right in my face, the different roles that we play, as husband and wife within our family dynamic, mom, dad, all those things.
Hmm.
So we've had a couple shifts in schedule, and my wife is not feeling good actively. Um, so that requires me to physically pick up some of the roles that she does, um, tasks that she's doing, or like I'm acutely aware when she starts to do them because she's not feeling well and the toll that it takes, after she does those. So I'm like, no, go sit down. I'll take care of it. Right. Um, So then it's just more in the forefront of, oh yeah, she does this. Oh yeah, she does this. And it's like, oh yeah, she does that. you know. Um, so considering those things and realizing there's more to meets the eye on the tasks that get done around the house, because you can sit in kind of the routine. But it also allowed me to reflect on how she, just being a different person, also sees things, and that she also has a different perspective on maybe the same situation that we've experienced. She has a different perspective and a different way that she navigates those. So all those kind of brought that around into walking in her shoes, and it's really just remembering that our wives are a whole person, and life affects them in a different way than us. It can be similar, but there are definitely some differences that, um, in how they take on life.
Yeah. And you used a key word that just exploded my mind in a moment. The word actively. You said your wife is actively not feeling well, right? And it made me think, right? Like there are a lot of times where I need to be more um empathetic to how my wife's feeling in a moment if she tells me she's unwell. And a little bit of backstory, I guess, is like I don't often have the option to just not be well and not like still go to work or to some capacity, right? And I don't want to make it sound like, oh, like, yeah, she gets to be sick and not
Right.
have her, like that's not a thing. Um, but I feel like sometimes my mind can go there because I know even when I'm sick, I typically still have to leave the house, right? But getting back to the word actively, like if I think when my wife says like, "Hey, I'm not feeling well," like her body is actively doing something to her, right?
Hmm.
To make her not feel well. And it's not like, "Hey, I'm just gonna go take a break."
Right.
You feel?
Right.
But yeah, so I just went off on a tangent, but had to share because I was like, "Ooh, that could help me reframe, taking on extra responsibility when need be." Um, which is funny because typically when she tells me she's ill or whatever, I'm just like very soldier about it. Like, yeah, I'm on it. I'll go get this done. Um, but then the mind sometimes plays tricks on you. So there's
That's true. That's a good way to combat any stupid thoughts that we might have as a husband, like anything that kind of goes against what the actual situation is, against what her character is,
right.
and is really just kind of designed to put a wedge between, you know, us and our wives, because it's just a little nugget that can just chip at our marriage. Like, because you're like, man, yeah, you can go there real quick, but
Yeah.
then you have to remember who your wife is and what the actual situation is. Fact, she's not feeling good. Fact, she's never going to just ditch on her responsibilities as a wife. So this is a stupid thought.
Yeah. And it's funny because it's like, it's never at a convenient time,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
Getting sick for either one of us, right? And it might even be at a time where, like, I, in this moment, have plans to go take care of this for the business or whatever. She's like, hey, can you reschedule that? Because I'm not feeling well. Right. And I'm like, man, that's crazy. But yeah, I'll do it. Right. Because I love you and I want you to feel better. If, you know, laying down for a while is going to make that happen, then cool. I got you. And I got this stuff over here that needs to get done. It is what it is. Right. Um, but yeah, in that moment, I'm just like mourning
Yeah.
to change some things.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good thought. I appreciate you bringing up that actively. I got to be better, because even if it's like an in passing, like, man, I really don't feel good, but then she's pushing through, which maybe in my experience, wives are very good at doing that. They
Mhm.
may not feel good, but they push through to get whatever needs to be done accomplished. Um,
Yeah.
and I think that we as husbands kind of, we don't see it because they do it so well.
Mhm.
And that's something that we have to remember. Like, they may just say something in passing, or they may not say anything at all. Um, but they may not be feeling well, but they know this is how our family functions. So this is what I need to get done, you know. So sometimes I can be the, I'm gonna let you know that I'm not feeling good type of thing.
Mhm.
Whether it be a face, a terrible attitude, whether it be, um, you know, me limping around because my back hurts or something like that, um, while still getting what I need done. But there's like a visual cue that I'm not doing well. But
Yeah.
there are tons of times where Crystal will say, she'll just say it in passing that something is, off or whatever. And then we'll go on and she'll have to remind me, like, remember, I said I'm not feeling well. And I'm just like, but you're like perfectly operating. Like, it doesn't compute with my brain. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's something I got to get better at.
Like, you're sick and you're operating at a higher level than I am right now.
Right.
And she's like, yeah, it's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but I think even that is like, thinking about that, it's kind of walking in her shoes. Like, she can still function at a high level and still get everything done when she's not feeling well. So when she actually does say, listen, I need to go lay down, then this is real,
Yeah.
which is another way to help frame when those things happen.
Right. I like that. I've put parentheses around it, underlined it. Uh,
Circle it, star it. Like, what is
actively
all
er,
that? So,
yeah, need that. Thank you. Um, so we want to talk about perspective, right? And I'll just kind of lead with I struggle in this area um, because of who I am and how I operate. Uh, I struggle with, I guess, seeing her perspective fully, right? I can hear what she's saying. Um, I can understand that she has some feeling behind it, but based on the scenario, I will typically be very matter of fact, right? Especially when it comes to something that I know no matter what effort we put into it, that thing can't change or won't change, or it is very unlikely to change anytime soon. So what what could I do to be better at kind of like, I guess, giving my wife what she needs rather than just being like stoic Brian?
Gotcha. Do you have an example?
Yeah, so the other day, um, we had a situation with a neighbor, and my wife got very like emotional about it, right? And in the moment, I felt like she was coming down on me, um, but more or less, like I didn't want to sit in this area of like being angry about something that I couldn't change,
Hmm.
right? Again, like I said, she was emotional about it, and I felt like there was really not so much I could do to help her because, like, again, it is what it is. We'll deal with the issue as it develops, but me sitting here and like, I guess, like getting mad about it or expressing that I'm mad about it doesn't change anything in my mind, right? For me, it doesn't make me feel better,
Hmm.
right? And it might be different for her. It might make her feel better, or that might be the process she needs to get from point A to point B.
Hmm.
And I think that I just wasn't seeing that.
No, that makes sense. Would you? I was thinking about this once you were saying that, but you kind of summed it up. So there is a way that you quickly realize at this point I can't change it how I would like to, or it may not change at all,
Mhm.
right? But you deal with it and then you move on. Do you think that our spouses may have to process that, like process the emotion out of it before they can get to that point? So
Mhm.
I think if you look at it as this is just her way to get past it,
Mhm.
that can help us as husbands kind of sit there like she's just trying to get to where I already am, but this is how she gets there. So I'm going to sit with her while she's there, and then we'll both meet at, okay, we can't really change this right now, but what can we do? But
Yeah.
she needs to. Um, it's kind of like when um, your kids come home from school and they're like, ah, right, because they've had to sit still and listen and blah blah all day. They finally get to a place where they're comfortable and they can release everything that has been pent up all day,
Right.
right? So if we look at our wives just releasing just right, and our wives are generally more in tune on how to feel and express feelings. So like, so she's like, this is how I process to get to where this is basically it is what it is, but she has to process through that and it comes out emotionally. We might headily do it, or we might even deflect because we don't know how to process our feelings yet. So
Eh,
instead of leaning into it, we're like, no, it is what it is. Get it out. It is what it is. Let's move. Let's move. Let's move. It is what it is. Let's go. Let's go. Instead of us being like, man, this is the worst. Why can this not change, and why can't I change it? Because if we reflect on it, right, we are actually mad that we have no power to change it, right?
mm,
Because we as husbands generally want the best for our wives and our kids. If there's a situation that we can't change, there is some frustration there. But if we've learned to cope with those by just let it out, it's gone, we can't change it, it's good, then we don't have the tools to process that like our spouses do. So
Mm,
we've coped with it a different way. Like, it is what it is, we'll be good. But she has to process through, because she's been taught since she's a little girl how to process through emotion. I mean, that just got super meta and super deep,
uh,
but that is something that is real.
yeah. Yeah. I'm not meeting her where she is. I'm trying to just pull her out to where I'm at because
Yeah.
that's where I'm
Yeah.
gross.
And she's comfortable in that space. And
Yeah.
it's actually a healthy space, because it allows her to literally, because, we carry stress and we carry emotions whether we express them or not. She's actually releasing that out into the world, and it's no longer there.
Yeah.
And then she can just have a matter of fact conversation. But if you talk to an emotive person and they can't get those emotions out, they can't get out what they're feeling, there's really not a strong, proper, productive conversation until they get those things out.
Wow. This is so crazy to me because why is it I can do this at work, but when it comes to my wife, like, why do I have separate expectations? Right? Like, if I'm dealing with an upset customer yelling in my face, I can process that. Right? I can be to a certain degree empathetic. Like, hey, sorry, sir, sorry, miss. I understand where you're coming from, right? And then like verbally walk them down from where they are.
Mhm.
But in my marriage, when something like that happens, I take it personally.
That's the thing.
And I think part of it as well is like, I might be afraid that I'm going to have to like pick up that emotion that she's dumping.
That's it.
And I really don't want to do that.
That is exactly it. There's a level of compartmentalizing it when you're at work, or if it's not your wife, right? Because there's not that need to lean in and to like feel what she's feeling, right? With the customer, it's like, okay, like, let's just work through it, it'll be done. There's a level of empathy that goes deeper with your wife, basically.
Mhm.
So if
Yeah.
you open that door to lean into that space, you are going to take, it's not a I might, like,
Yeah.
99% of the time you're going to lean in fully and start to feel that. And that's a scary place, especially if you don't really know how to.
Yeah. Ah, that's dirty. Oh man. So like a couple things here. Like, number one, I need to practice expressing my feelings so I
Mhm.
can be more comfortable in that space. Um, Number two, I need to really work on sitting, excuse me, sitting at that level my wife's at, um, when she's feeling a certain way. And man, so many realizations. I need to, man, I need to apologize because those, man, my mind is going so many different places right now. So there's like a deeper validity to these videos I've been seeing lately, right? Where a wife will be walking out of the door, her husband's behind her, right? And then she just starts screaming and reacting like there's a bug or a lion outside or
Mhm.
whatever. And they're like, if he can't meet you on your level, like, have you seen those
No,
before?
I haven't. I
All
haven't.
right. So, like, basically, the premise I've already explained, but what they're trying to say is like, if your man doesn't like just immediately meet you at your level of reactivity, right? Like, he might not be the one for you. And so they're like playing these pranks of like,
Yeah.
oh, like there's a bee out here or
Yeah.
the dog chasing me. And like, you can't necessarily see what's going on because you're just creeping out the door behind her, but she's already like off and running. So, right, how do you react to that?
Yeah, those are those are good.
You know what I mean? And 9 times out of 10, the guy's like, oh, what's going on here? And he's
Yeah,
running back and forth, like trying to figure out what's actually happening.
yeah,
And
yeah,
they find out it's a prank. But if you like kind of marry those two, there's a deeper level to
yeah,
meeting your wife where she is emotionally or reactionally, whatever the scenario is. And I'm just starting to feel that right now.
glad we had that space.
That's crazy. But yeah, so meet her where she's at.
Yeah, that's it. That's literally, I mean, that is kind of a version of walking, walking in her shoes,
Mm-hmm.
is mirroring or meeting her right there. So, and eventually you're getting to the same place most of the time. It's just how you get there, right? So you may know all the shortcuts. She may like the scenic route, but either way, you get there. Or it
Yeah.
may seem scenic to you, but it's the proper way to get somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was I don't like that realization either. But I mean, everything you say, it would just be an echo back. So I'm not gonna waste anyone's time. But that makes me think, yeah, we actually had a conversation yesterday, and it's just something that's happening, kind of where we are, and there's some things I had to do, but like it's one of those frustration moments. And she was like, "Well, what are you thinking?" Like I was just sitting, like my demeanor and my face changed,
Mm.
and it was like, oh man, like I now have to have this conversation with this neighbor, but like I don't want to, but
Mhm.
it is what it is, and like it's a very good reason why I have to do this. And but it was more so like a feeling thing. Like once this conversation starts, I may feel some things that I don't want to have to deal with, much less express and or process through while I'm trying to have this conversation.
Then
And
also
I
control myself so I don't get
right,
full.
right. So, and it's funny, I couldn't, now that I'm talking about it and we're talking about expressing, like I can, but she was like, express how you feel. Are you frustrated? Are you angry? Are you blah blah blah? And she started walking through this. So I was like, yeah, I'm basically frustrated, but now I know why I'm frustrated. Like I knew I was frustrated, but I couldn't articulate it. But now I know why. But it's just that moment of like she was ready to lean into that space, and I was just like, I just will make this weird face and hope this conversation goes away. She's like, it's all over your face. Like it's all over your face. Just let's talk it out.
Yeah.
So we definitely do that. And that's again a different perspective. That's again her having the tools on walking in, leaning in on that in that space, and me like running because I don't have the right shoes. Like you're trying to have me play football with like Crocs. Like that's not gonna work. Like I need the right cleats. She's like, "Oh, I got them. They're right here. They're in the
Yeah.
bag. I packed them. Like, let's get them out." I'm like, "Oh, I left mine at home. Just got these sandals." Like, so
Mm.
yeah.
So, did she try to squeeze your feet into her size cleats?
That basically she was like, I have them and I know where yours are. So actually
Mm.
go here, here, and here and go get your cleats and
Uh,
then come back. That
okay.
was more what it was. Like
Uh,
she she's very good at giving people the space that they need to process through. But it's like pointing out that they needed to process through is like, oh, then you're like, man, like I really need to. And then I have to make the choice to process in that space or not. But I've learned that it's better to actually lean in than hold it in and go on about my business, because it's going to come back.
Yeah. All right. So if those are her shoes that we're trying to walk in, right? And I think of this entire conversation, this is probably the most beneficial thing that we could work on as husbands, leaning into these uncomfortable spaces, working through our emotions, realizing, like you said, oh, this is why I'm upset. And, you know, dumping that out of ourselves so it's then processed and we can work through it, right? I guess the solution I'm trying to get to is, how can I activate that for myself? Right? How can we get to the place where I no longer need my wife to point that out? Like, hey, there's clearly something wrong with you. Just talk to me.
Right. um I think it comes back to kind of our normal formula for anything, right? One, acknowledge that it's there, right? Acknowledge that it needs to be done, that we have to work on it. Two, be willing to practice it when we realize it. But we have to let our spouse know that that's something we're trying to work on,
Mhm.
because obviously at this point we're not good at it and we can't always see it initially. Um, so once it's brought to our attention, we have to make that space right then and there. We can't say, "Oh, I'll do it later," because then we'll probably never come back to it because it's uncomfortable for us. So, kind of in the moment, if you see yourself going down that path of trying to deflect and run, walk it back. If your wife points out, "Hey, like you're deflecting and running," eat that humble pie
Mm.
and sit in that space. And then just give yourself the okay that it's not going to be clean. It's probably going to be messy initially, at least. But it's practice, practice, practice. We can't compare ourselves to our wives in that, because they've had a lifetime of figuring that out, in most cases. And we have not. We've had, we're today years old when we figured that out. So we've got a lot of catch up on that.
Yeah, yeah. That's good. That's good, man. Yeah, I mean, it's just something I'll have to continually work on. And having that conversation, like you said, is key, right? To let her know that, listen, I'm acknowledging that I need to work on this. I need your help working on it, right? And like, I'm wondering if it would be at all beneficial to kind of create like mock situations and where you could practice that. I don't know if that could be a thing. Um, because just because it is so uncomfortable, right, to get to that space and then have to walk back into it
Hmm.
when you're so used to just trying to throw a stiff arm.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, like, I really, really don't want to be in that space.
Yeah, but I think you could try a mock scenario, but
Yeah,
I don't know if it has the weight.
that's
I
what I
don't
was
know
gonna.
if it would work, because it's not uncomfortable, because it's a mock scenario.
Yeah, but I see, to some extent, I think it could be beneficial because even if it's not so much geared towards how we react in this scenario, it might give us and or our wives some better tools to figure out, like, all right, he's reacting in this typical way. Now I might be able to figure out, if I say these things, I can pull him back faster.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So I don't know how. I'll put some thought into it, and I'll bring it back to you if I figure something out.
Yeah, and I'm thinking it might not be mock scenarios, but it may just be a controlled environment, right? Because a lot of the things we walk in and we're not ready for, but if
Yeah.
you say, "Hey, let's," if you know there's some areas that make you uncomfortable, maybe you
Mhm.
write those out and then bring them to your wife and say, "Hey, can we on this date and this time talk about this thing?" So that way you can ramp yourself up, know you're about to have this, be ready to lean in and go there instead of just this random thing happens where you now have to have this conversation when you're just trying to jump in the shower, right? Or,
Yeah.
or just trying to get out the house, or, just trying to go pick up the kids, whatever it is. But sometimes those conversations that need to happen in that moment, or there's, your wife is being very emotive and feeling the situation out, and
Mhm.
you're not ready to feel that situation. So if you have some controlled environments where you're like, okay, I got to lean into this. I got to be ready to feel. She feels a way about this. Let's talk about something that she feels a way about and see if I can meet her there and kind of help process and see how that works for me. Um, so I think maybe a controlled environment might be a way to set up it'd be a mock scenario for the extenuating circumstance that just pops up for the unplanned. And if you
Yeah.
practice in the controlled environment, you can get to just what you said about feeling what might be said to pull them back. How can we get through this better? But now in the crisis situation, you've already had some controlled environments that you've worked through that you may be better in the crisis.
I like it. Man, we're well over on time, so let's wrap this up. It happens. We can always bring this topic back up. But I want to invite you guys, if you have anything else that you'd like to add to this conversation, please do reach out to us on Instagram, searching Marriage is Tougher, and we will respond to you there. So be a part of the community and make your voice heard. We love you.